Okay, we are back. We've had some technical difficulties over here, so thank you for being patient. I'm Vanessa Petronelli. I'm your host of Elite Women Live, the authentic, real, unscripted conversation series for spiritual, conscious folks out in the world who are looking to upgrade and activate to their highest potentialities and possibilities and are wanting authentic, real conversations live. This is episode number 3, and I'm going to reintroduce my wonderful guest for the second time. And I am fingers crossed. I've already called in Archangel Michael to please stabilize the frequencies and to make sure that our technology does not have any issues. I am going to introduce my third amazing, wonderful guest that I was so ecstatic that she said yes to joining me in this conversation. The beautiful TRACY James. Welcome, TRACY. Thank you so much for being here and being so patient.
Oh my God, no worries.
You know, you just have to roll with it. I actually was laughing the entire time this happened because, you know, it's so symbolic of life. And I was reminded of this last week. I just got back from Sedona, Arizona, leading my retreat. And there were so many things that came up over the 4 days that caused me to get out of the way. And this is one of those things, like sometimes things just don't unfold the way we plan, and we've got to roll and be in the flow with what's coming up in our realities, the challenges that come up, even technical difficulties. So,
and you know, it's one thing that I notice for myself and with others, you know, there's something about when those things happen in the outer world, this kind of, you know, whatever technical snafus or things aren't going the way that we'd wish. You know, there can also be this kind of self, like turning it back on ourselves, you know, like what's wrong with me? I should be more organized. I should be blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I think it's just a really beautiful example, you know, just for all of us, just about how important it is to really stay in our hearts with ourselves through all of this, because this isn't about having control of the universe. Which we could, and we're very powerful beings.
Yes, we are.
Amazing stuff. And at the same time, there's something about just really letting in that, you know what, like this is a loving universe. And it's a loving universe that is doing things that we don't always understand. Mm-hmm. And that sometimes can be, you know, leave us in this space of uncertainty. And it's that place of, I like to call it confident faith. That no matter what it looks like right now, something is operating in my favor and for my good. And that is absolutely the case for us right now and for you. And as you re-enter this reality after your amazing retreat and all the kind of multi-dimensional processes you're going through, and yeah, and just like really keeping that tenderness, you know, for ourselves, because yeah, you know, that there is good going on. And I think that it's even, you know, even just holding that in the larger sense, you know, of where we are, you know, we're in America at the moment, and there are a lot of places in the world where sometimes it can be tempting to just say like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on in this physical world that just doesn't seem right. It's not how I vision. It's not how it's supposed to be. And just to be like, yeah, I get, you know, like I say this to myself, like, what's happening, and protect our water, and, you know, and I can get into like my warrior mode. Yeah. Which can be like this like resistant space sometimes. And then, yeah, so I just keep coming back to that, you know, confident faith, and then listening, you know, to what is my part right now? You know, what am I called to do in this moment? And if that's reset the internet,
or computer, you know.
I was like, be with the computer right now, or love myself through this messy moment. That's what it is.
Yes, yes. Oh, I love that. What a beautiful intro to all of this. It's so true. And you know what fascinates me. And by the way, hello to those of you who are joining us. Please participate and engage. Andrea, welcome. She loved what you said around confident faith. She's like, yes, confident faith. OMG. And also she's saying that there are amazing advances going on that gives her confident faith. And you know, this has been an ongoing thing for me. I really believe that for most human beings, a part of the initiation back to our remembrance is having that confident faith that we are not alone, and that there is something bigger at play here that is often unseen. Actually, most of it is unseen. And there's so much more order, even in the chaos, than we might, even our small minds and the small self, even conceptually understand. And you can look at this from a bigger perspective, you know, from the more esoteric perspective, and you can also look at it from that microcosmic perspective of our own lives. When we go through these experiences where there are challenges and difficulties, I mean, this is very minor with technical things, and I think nobody is immune to technical difficulties, you know, but when we look at those challenging aspects of our lives where we can't wrap our head around, why is this happening to me often, you know, the victim mentality.
What am I doing wrong?
What am I doing wrong? You know, why did this thing happen to me? Did my vibration cause this? Like all these things that somehow victimize ourselves or blame ourselves or others or other experiences. It's like we have to stop and start to look at having confident faith that there are things at work and at play that we may not understand in that moment. We may never understand, but there's order in the universe, even in the chaos. And there are things that are causing us to move forward in ways that we may not understand and we may see. And who knows, maybe having those technical difficulties was actually the thing that needed to happen, because maybe on that timeline or, you know, where we were headed may not have reached the right people. Or
correction.
Course correction in the most smallest minute way. So it's, you know, for me, how I look at it, and I feel like you're somebody who understands this, perception is everything. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the story, you know, we are such powerful creators that we literally manifest the story we have in our minds about reality into reality, you know, and that, you know, and everything will end up being a story, you know. So it's always, yes. You know, you can have stories that feel more supportive and more empowering, and ones that feel really heavy and draining. And so there's really no there's no person out there, or this big judge that's saying, you know, you are not worthy of a great life, or what's happening to you right now is because you're a bad person, you know.
Right.
And that's like, there's just something about, you know, being able to just kind of like lift off that kind of heavy, damp cloak of that, you know, weight, and just be like, actually, whatever path we take is okay. Like there's just, you know, and we just kind of make up what our story is around that, and let that story feel empowering, and then see what other empowering things get created out of that, you know, and that there isn't this pressure to somehow get it right, you know, or somebody judging us whether we're getting it right or not, you know, and there's a lot of freedom in there.
Absolutely, there is. I agree. I don't know if you feel this way, but I notice that most of the time, and I've been here and I still have to catch myself because I'm ever evolving, right? We all are on this path. But I've noticed with clients and just with people and even myself that it seems to be a lot easier for us. The default has been to be committed more to the stories and I call them filters. We were just doing a lot of this work even last week in my retreat. The filters and the stories, like we become so committed to those that are not actually aligned with the truth of who we are, that are more aligned with the disempowering beliefs we have about ourselves and of others. And that starts to create almost like this vortex of manifestation in our reality, so much so that I've seen people experience realities that are actually skewed or distorted because of that. That's how powerful it is. Like we literally are creating moment to moment based on, these perceptions and filters and stories we have about ourselves. And I hear you, like there's nobody judging it, but it's what type of life are we wanting to live and choosing to live. And I know that our stories and our perceptions and our filters and our beliefs are all a reflection of that. So, I don't know if you notice this coming up with, the clients that you work with and even, in your own journey, but that's kind of what it's been like for me. I've seen that happen so much. And even up until running this retreat, I went through a good dose of facing stories and listening to those disempowering stories so that I could move into these last 2 retreats that I just did within this last month for my SAS program and for the retreat for the Elite Evolutionary Women's Retreat in Sedona. Like I went through it like up to here. I was deep in my own stories and it was coming up so rampantly to find a new way. To find a new way to move toward a different way of teaching about this and me embodying and integrating what it means to live and choose a more empowering life and perspective.
Well, think about a butterfly. I always love looking at nature and nature is such an incredible teacher. And, what it took for that butterfly to really get there. Like, so there was a caterpillar and then with like no wings who then went into a cocoon and its guts got all squished up and blended up and then somehow burst out of that flying. Whoa. Right?
Yeah. Whoa.
And that is what I hear you describing right now, Vanessa Petronelli. Like, I really do. Like, this is you just butterflying yourself through your life, and that's what we're all doing. And it's so uncomfortable. And the stories are the cocoon and they're the, the stuff that we're like, we're kind of dealing with this contrast and conflict and noticing the stories and noticing the ways that we can just hold ourselves back or hold ourselves small. And then, what it takes to actually kind of like hold that vision of this butterfly that you are and allow for yourself to kind of face through those things and stay with them. And then you're here, and then like on the other side of doing this thing, expanded, and you have expanded other people's lives and, been a mirror and been just a gorgeous kind of inspirer. And so but my feeling is like, it's about us continuing to go back in. And that's something that like I, because I also coach other coaches too. And, and there's just something about not getting to a level where we feel like, oh, I've got this.
Right. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Like, just a sense of like being able to stay with our process and go into another cocoon and another one, like just to be like, oh, I'm a butterfly and this is so awesome. And it is. And, so sometimes there's this The Buddha taught us a lot about attachment.
Mm-hmm.
So then there's this like attachment to this good place or the accomplishment or what's happened that we're really proud of, or, oh, this is good. And then all of a sudden, the internet starts winking out and you're having to stop. And then it's like, ah! And, and I'm not saying you're in mass resistance, but I get that way, where I'm just like, no, I like this. And then I remember like, oh, you know what? It's another cocoon.
Yes.
Get in there, do your work, get all ripped up inside and reconfigured and upgraded and come out again. Right.
Absolutely. I'm so with you. I mean, and that's one thing that I really wanted to also, when I created the idea of this elite women's live conversation, just the elite, that word, for me, it was starting to really redefine what it means to be an elite person, because we are all elite. We're all royalty. I help women return back to their royalty, their divine royalty of who they are. And also helping people understand that leaders have their shit. Yeah. That people who may portray themselves to have all their shit together most likely don't, because they're human. Yeah. And, I have a lot of questions from clients and people that I've worked with. And I used to also feel the same way when I would go through the cocoon phase, the metamorphosis. Ironically, my name means Vanessa. Vanessa means butterfly.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So it's like I used to always say, and I hear a lot of clients also say, does this work ever end? Does it ever come to the end? And the answer is, and for anybody watching this, no. It never ends. As long as you're in this physical vessel on this earth plane, you're going to continue to evolve and expand and grow. And there are going to be times where it's a little easier. And there are going to be times when you're right down on the floor, even after doing years and years and years of inner work, spiritual work. By nature, this spiritual path is chaotic. Mm-hmm. It's not meant to be this straight, linear path. It is up and down. And it's all a part of the evolution. And it is the up-leveling, the upgrading. Like most people think when they're thinking, because I do a lot of upgrading work, as do you. Upgrading operating systems within the body, the mind, the emotions, our energy, all of that. But most people have this attached belief or view that, upgrade means everything is going to look so fucking awesome as soon as I say yes to doing this. Yeah. What I've noticed, I don't know if you feel the same way, when I say yes to the upgrade personally, and when clients say yes to the upgrades, there's almost like this chaotic, almost death process. And what I mean by death, I don't mean literal death. What I mean is the old has to shed. The old versions of ourselves, the old beliefs, all the old things we've been identifying with, all the old, fears and projections and stories, all of those things. And it's the things that we've attached and we believe are ourselves have to go. And it can be very painful, and it can feel like you're in this little chrysalis, mush, not having any clue who you are, because it really does feel that way. Oh my God, does it ever? Like when you're in the midst of it, holy shit, it never feels like it's going to end, right? And then you're on the other side, wings come out, and you're like, oh, that doesn't seem so bad. And now I understand why, because I'm on the other side of this. And so I love that you said this, because it's really up for me too. And I think for people and those of you who are watching who are on this, accelerated path of personal mastery, of spiritual mastery, of consciousness, of ascension, and you have mission-based businesses, and you're a leader in the transition for humanity and for the planet and for the galaxies and all of the universes and for God, the thing is, you've got to stop asking yourself, does this ever end? Because you're not here for it to end. You're here to continue to grow. You're in Earth School, and we're students as long as we're in this body here. What happens afterward? I'm sure we've been through it many times before, but we don't remember.
Yeah. I'm so with you, Vanessa. There's a place also, I'm very into shamanism and just seeing the world through the lens that we are in relationship with dimensions that we don't actually see. Mm-hmm. From angels and angelic realms to spirits of plants and spirits of nature. We are interconnected. And there's something in shamanism, a term or an experience called Shamanic Death.
Yes.
And when we're just talking about that, it really arose for me that's that's what our ancestors called that. Shamanism is, or in this kind of animistic way of experiencing the world, is ancient. It's just where all of our people way back in the day, that's how we related to nature and the world. There was like a respect and an interconnectedness, and in the process of deepening that relationship with multidimensional realities, with nature, a death was involved, or probably many deaths. I mean, I could say for myself, I've had quite a few.
Yeah.
And, there is something about that part, those different layers of ourselves that resist oneness and resist union with the all. And hey, we're supposed to too. We're here in these individual bodies, and and so there's this incredible paradox to being a human, to being a spirit walking in this body, and to be evolving. And so as we evolve, there are layers of ourselves that die off as we come closer and closer to our experience of union and oneness. And when I'm hearing you, that's what I'm hearing you talk about. That's what I'm hearing you go through. That's what I'm hearing you support others in the process of, is this, continuation of just shedding these stories and these perceptions of ourselves and reality that are that make it difficult to experience our union with all. And so there's something there, and also something that you said really struck me as beautiful, because you're talking about really staying in this body, and staying that's we're here in this earth school for a reason. Yeah. Hey, you know what I mean? And then when we're not, we're not. So while we're here, there are a lot of spiritual folks that I meet that will talk about ascension and this sense of, and even, there are certain aspects or people who follow certain Buddhist practices, not all, but certain ones. There's a sense of wanting to liberate oneself from this physicality.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I get that.
It's hard being human.
I get that. And, at the same time, that desire to liberate ourselves, is part of the paradox. It's on the one hand, we're longing for this reconnection with oneness that doesn't have this hard separation that we feel in these bodies, and doesn't necessarily feel the pain that we can experience physically in these bodies. And at the same time, holding that, so that desire in some ways drives us forward, it moves us forward to evolve and come closer to oneness. At the same time, there's a real kind of hitch in there where it also can have us reject what is in this moment, not be one with this moment. These bodies are miracles. I mean, straight up miracle. Just think about it for a second. Like how each of us was like in a womb. What?
How we came to be.
And like all of the processes and I mean, what? And like, this is just like taken for granted. Hey, well, it happened to all of us. Right. And so, but just like, and the intelligence in this body, and that, you know, it's actually this body that helps us awaken, like through the body, through engagement with this gift that we have been given, we evolve like through it, not having to get out of it first. So that's, you know, that's like, to me, the juiciest part, even though it hurts and it's like, you know, and I mean, birth hurts. Like, I have not had a child, and I don't believe that's my path. But I have witnessed birth three times. I've been with my dear, beautiful friends and witnessed these babies coming out. Whoa. Like, whoa. I mean, it moves me just to think about it. And so I guess, you know, I just say that, you know, as each of us is going through life and there are just these beautiful, gorgeous moments. And then there are these moments that feel really hard. And, you know, there's something about just allowing for that cocoon death to keep happening and for those difficulties to occur and to keep staying with. And this is where I'm going to come back to that confident faith. You know, that there's something more going on in us and around us. And if we keep staying in there and I mean, I honestly believe that's like one of the hardest things for a human being. Like, and I have done an outrageous amount of personal work on myself, going in all kinds of intense places. And I will say, like, one of the biggest challenges for me is still being able to really, really, really stay with what is. The desire is to, like, oh my gosh, let me go numb this. Let me go eat some bread.
Gotta love the bread. Mine's potato chips.
Potato chips, kettle chips.
Oh yeah. Yes, that's a good choice.
So it's like, I have this feeling like, oh, I'd love some kettle chips right about now. And it's like, you know what? You know, I think something must be going on at this moment in this reality for me, because I'm wanting kettle chips. And that means I'm not wanting what's here right now. And what is so bad about right now? Like, what is so hard about this? And, you know, and just kind of coming back with this like love and tenderness for ourselves in the moment, to just kind of like, yes, like embrace ourselves as like another layer is dying off. And then we're gonna find that juice again. It's gonna be okay. Yes. You know, it's all cycles. It's all cycles. This just, you know, and having faith in the cycle and in the process and the surrender. Yes. I swear, Tracy, you and I have been having telepathic connection around this, because this is precisely same channel, sister. Yeah, same channel, because this is really, really fucking important. It really is. We have been so trained to think that life is a linear path, and we do everything to stay on that little narrow path in our comfort zones, afraid to feel. We have a society and a culture of people who are so afraid to feel because it's so hard, and we have not been trained or developed to learn how to be with what is. You and I have done, like you said, outrageous amounts of inner work. So as we sit here, it's both of us are in complete agreement. Oh yes, like I'm noticing, I'm reaching for the cake.
and I'm not able to be with what is, you know, and I can love these parts, but I know that there's so many
later.
Yeah.
After I've soothed myself.
But I know for a fact that there's going to be people watching, you know, either with us or live. By the way, you feel free to say hi if you're watching. Would love to know who's here. Please presence yourself. We're all in this conversation together. I know, because I've seen it in my work, I'm sure you've seen it in yours, how difficult it is for people to be able to be with those parts of themselves and to be in those, you know, evolutionary moments where there's so much coming up. It actually feels a lot better to soothe than it is to sit. And then we miss out on really actually honoring the sacredness of what it means to be a human. Even in spiritual communities, there's so much, how do I want to frame this? There's so much about leaving the body than there is about being able to bring heaven and earth together as one. And when I mean that, it's got to be through the body that we combine and honor the sacredness. We tend to think that other beings are actually more powerful than we are. We can work with these beings. I know you and I both do. But at the end of the day, it's like, I'm the vessel, I'm the creator of my reality, and I'm also very powerful, as is everyone else. And, you know, there's something about really getting to the heart of being able to face our humanity and be able to look at it without the resistance and the judgment and the numbing and all of that, and actually deeply honor the parts of us that are in pain and that are suffering and that need love and attention and acknowledgement and presence, you know. And this is, I feel, from what I've been, you know, learning and just all the downloads I receive, you know, I feel like this is a very important part of the initiatory process as we are on this path of mastery, of getting closer to who we are, and also being human in it. It's like, there is no point where we're going to have the sense of perfection the way we think perfection is and looks. Like, it's all perfect in our experience of it, but it's like almost teaching people to honor the human experience first before you can start to have the more spiritual experience, because most people want to bypass this because it's too hard. It's too fucking painful in this body and this human experience. So let me go and talk to the angels and the galactics and the ascended masters and start to get really up here so that I can leave my body and not be in here. And I mean, that's a rampant problem, is bypassing, right? So what I love about what you do, and I also love what I do as well in this, I'm going to own this, is helping our tribe to understand that you are a masterful creator, having a beautiful human sacred experience, and you have the ability to not only be here, but also be on multidimensional planes, but you're still coming back to here. And you still need to honor what's so in this moment and in this journey. Something so spectacular about that we need to stop numbing ourselves from and distracting ourselves from, because we're missing out on what it means to be a magnificent human being, able to have a plethora, a wide spectrum of experiences, both mental, emotional, physical, energetic, and spiritual. Like, it's beautiful to be able to feel the way that we feel. It's actually not a problem to feel sadness and anger and frustration and whatever else is coming up. But we've got to become trained to know how to handle it. And that's what we have. We have a lot of people who are like untrained drivers on the road, getting upset and not knowing what to do with it. You know, it's like we go through so many trainings in school and certifications and to even get behind a wheel, but we don't know how to master and work with our humanness. And that's what breaks my heart. And if I can be a part, and you can be a part of someone's life when they're in that phase of, and they're not sure how to hold themselves through the experience, what a fucking gift that is. If there's one thing that you can give yourself this lifetime, it's learning to be with all that is and with those emotions, and learning to be with your humanity. because this is always going to keep going. This is always going to keep happening. Like you said, life is seasons. We are going through winter, summer, spring, fall. For women, we're going through 4 seasons a month.
Yeah.
Right? We're always continually going through seasons. But if you don't know how to handle your seasons, or you're always trying to favor one season because that is the easiest, you're dismissing the beauty that is available in all the other cycles and seasons of our lives.
Yeah.
That's the gift here. You know, it's not just about connecting out here or out here, but about being able to be in here.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm so with you, Vanessa. I just love how you said that. And
thanks. I love how you said it too. I was like, yes, yes, yes.
And that, you know, I would even add that for sometimes I notice, you know, with the folks that want to kind of get out and up, and I think that there are a lot of different people here on this planet from different places.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
With different functions and purposes, you know, and so some are more about body and some are a little bit more about up here. You know, so that said, I also, you know, I think of it like if you imagine there's a cave, right? And inside that cave is, you know, the next, a treasure, you know, there's a treasure in there. Mm-hmm. And that treasure is your next level of evolution. Mm. And how I experience that this can work is, you know, in front of that cave, at the mouth of that cave, is something that appears very scary to each of us.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like, it's the boogeyman or whatever. And, you know, and so that's the feeling when it's like, I want kettle chips. Like I'm right up, like walking to the mouth of this cave. And I am experiencing this intensity that makes me just want to back off it and go away. And so the moment, that's the test in a way. You know, it's not like a test like you could be wrong and then you're screwed or something. It's not that. Like it's like your GPS system, you know, in the car or whatever, you know, it's just going to recalculate and give you another opportunity to go that way again in a different way. So it's not like, you know, you're supposed to beat yourself up for eating the kettle chips. But when we can be in our bodies and feel through what sometimes can just feel like this intense, like painful wave, we can also think of as like what the chick must feel like breaking out of an egg, right? It's like, oh. And we don't even realize the world that exists outside of the egg. We don't even realize how incredible it is to then receive the gifts of that treasure, to be expanded by it, because all we can focus on is how uncomfortable it feels to be just, you know, in this angst.
Yes.
And with what's going on right now. And so that is, you know, that's why I think of myself as a midwife sometimes, you know, because it's like I'm being with people through the discomfort of the birthing of themselves.
I love that.
Stay in there so they can, you know, really move past those scary boogeymen that, you know, stand in front of what it is that, you know, we're actually designed to step into. But like the perfection of this whole thing is that we don't actually break out of the egg or get into the cave until we're ready. And that's why that exists. Like that's why this discomfort is here, because essentially until we're prepared to step through it, then we're kind of safe in where we are.
Yeah.
And then we like build up our skills and our abilities and, you know, go through the cocoon, whatever. And then we're at a place where we're ready then to step through that fear. You know, I really do not judge anyone who feels afraid of something, because it is scary. Like it's literally like the the sensations of that are designed, like when you think about the perfection of it all, I mean, literally designed such that to be able to, like, you feel it's almost like nails on a chalkboard or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you're feeling that vibration. It's like, oh, this is so dissonant. Oh, I can't stand it. There's no way I can be with this.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you kind of just stay in there anyway, sometimes I think of it like you just procrastinate the distraction. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm just going to procrastinate eating kettle chips right now. So I'm just feel like keep procrastinating that. And I'm just going to keep just being here, even if I don't know what to do. And like, I'm just going to just keep staying here. I'm just going to keep staying in here. And then somehow when we do that, when we stay with ourselves and stay with the process, it's like there's a birthing that happens, a cracking out of the egg, a claiming of our treasure and our royalty, as you're saying, and a stepping in that. And at the perfect time, exactly the perfect time when we were ready to own it.
Yes. Yes. It's so true. Because it isn't a judgment toward ourselves for not being able to do it. I will be the first to tell you, from the time I was a little girl, I had a really hard time being here in the sense of like being human. I remember looking out my window a lot and saying, take me back. This might sound very strange to some people, but I think a lot of people are going to relate to this. I remember saying, like, disassociating myself even from my own humanity and from humanity, and actually saying, like, I don't understand this planet. I don't understand these beings. Take me back. Why did you drop me off? Yeah, you made a mistake. Come on back. It was very hard. And I internalized a lot of it, being an intuitive, empathic young child. And as I started on my journey a little later, actually, I had to learn how to build walls to protect myself from the environment, so much so that I actually only allowed people to see what I wanted to show them, which is so funny because my full circle is like being so much more transparent, and even creating conversations like this where there's so much authenticity and rawness and realness about my own journey and other people's journeys, because we actually can relate more to each other in this way. Like we can show what is possible. So when I was in the entertainment industry, I had such an armor built up around being perfect and being seen as perfect. I didn't want friends and people to see when I was crumbling and hurting and in pain. People always associated me back in the day. I used to hear a lot, wow, you're so positive. You're such a happy person. I've never seen you upset before, and all these things. It's like, well, that's because you're not inside of me. You're only seeing what I'm allowing you to see. And I didn't understand what it meant to be embodied. I didn't understand what it meant to be in more of my feminine energy. I didn't understand what it meant to feel fully through all the things that were coming up. And when I went through I went through a couple stages of my more major awakenings, if you will. The second one, when I had that, I was in such shamanic death for several years that I would go to teaching yoga classes and even going to see clients in such grief and in such upset, because I had repressed so much since I was a little girl of, all the little things that popped up that weren't dealt with at that time. So, I say all of this, and I know that you're saying all this, like, it's not for judgment. It's like, I couldn't judge myself. Like, looking back, it's like, wow, I still want to make room for those parts of me to come up, because they belong. They belong there. And I love the beautiful examples that you gave there, because they're so accessible for people to relate to. But it's also in our human experiences, the more that we talk about what our journeys have been like, we also can become the leaders and role models for other people to say, hey, like, it's safe. I got you. Let's allow this to come up. Let me create a safe space, a safe container, a shoulder for you to lean on, to know that what you're feeling is welcome here. With me, it's welcome. And that, I mean, you have been one of my mentors as well. And I've always felt the safety with you. I know I can bring whatever's up, and I know that I'm not going to be judged by you in this. And, you know, with my clients, they've reflected similar things to me, only because we've had the opportunity to go first on some level. I say that like not go first as in all of humanity, but go first in our journeys to be able to be with those parts of ourselves. So if we're judging it, then we're, you know, of course, then we're not able to hold that, you know, space for others.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's the, like, one of the, like, just, you know, there's so many times when I just feel this awe of the beauty of how it all comes together. Because, you know, it's the very thing, like anyone watching this, or, you know, it's like the thing that we judge about ourselves or feel like, you know, when I was young and I was so sensitive, you know, I'm an emotional intuitive, so sensitive to the emotions of people around me. I would like cry at anything and just feel so, like so much in my body that was just so uncomfortable, like, all the time. And, you know, there's such a perfection how that went, because then like I needed to, that drove me. Like I remember the moment I was developing an ulcer. Okay. And I was like 7 or 8.
Wow.
Literally. And I remember, and I was taking this like medicine stuff and it didn't, you know, I didn't really feel like it was helpful, but I remember that I had this little black radio, and I would like turn on the radio and the music would make me feel better. And I just remember that, like, kind of the moment where it clicked for me. Wait a minute. Like, if I'm feeling hurt and sick in my body, how can music make me feel better? Like, this must not be about my body, you know, like this must be about something else. And that literally was like the moment that started like driving me forward, that idea that there's more going on here than just this like physical body saying that how this physical body is speaking is only in a small range of, you know, this is your physical diagnosis. Our bodies speak about a whole lot of stuff. A whole lot of stuff. And people like who are intuitive have different, you know, some people are more in tune with the language of the body. Other people have like vision, or there's so many kinds of ways of working with that. But, you know, I work with a lot of people who are intuitive and empathic, and actually I have a course coming out in mid-July for people who are intuitive and empathic, because it's the thing that people most judge. You know, like if you'll ask most people who have the gift of being intuitive and empathic, and a lot of them will feel like grateful for the gifts, but it's also like there's this place of feeling like so weird, you know, and so, you know, having felt so awkward and even like, you know, just not fitting in. And so all of that drives each of us toward finding our own medicine for the world, you know? So all of that, you know, my parents loved me, you know, they really did. And they had their issues, you know, and the environment had an intensity to it. And I was picking up on that. And so that was a gift, because then I learned, you know, how to develop skills and how to be able to work with my own intuition and how to read my body and read other people's bodies. And then, you know, so the very thing I used to like judge myself for is the thing I'm here to share, is to create a safe space for other people who have the same thing. I mean, like, how could it be more perfect? You know, like it's so perfect, right? Like what? So just looking at, you know, anything that any of you could be judging about yourself at this moment, somewhere inside there is a seed of your gift.
Yeah.
Like I know it. Like I've just experienced it so much with myself and so many people. And so as we can like just kind of come back to ourselves from a more compassionate place.
Yeah.
And say, it's okay that I don't exactly fit into what seems to be this kind of these norms that nobody actually fits into, but some people seem to feel like they do and keep trying to hold on to it. But it actually is, it's not about fitting in. It's about tuning in, you know, it's about being in the uniqueness of ourselves and how that uniqueness actually serves the whole.
Yeah. When
we put it out there. I mean, bees, right? I love bees. They buzz around. Who thinks, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you know, they pollinate and stuff like that. But once we actually think about bees and say, like, oh no, bees are dying. Like you start to see how critical those little beings are to like our planet.
Right.
You know, and what are they doing? They're just doing their thing. They're doing their job. They're doing their little piece. They're bringing their little medicine to the thing. And so, you know, it just, each of us is like that. You know, each of us has our own medicine that is critical to the world and the functioning of this planet. And so when we get to go back, you know, into our past, dig out, you know, release the stuff with our old judgments and fears and pain and stories, harness that to move forward, acknowledge our strengths. We're the bees, you know, and, you know, the planet needs you, like needs your medicine. And it doesn't mean like you have to then figure out the solution for climate change exactly. But what you can do is do your thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be your bee.
I love it. It's so true. You know, we're now in a place of critical time in history where we are being required to step into our fullest expression of who we are, because there is no more of the old templates or paradigms that say it has to look a certain way. And this is why I always tell, you know, all of my spiritual people, like, it's time to own your abilities, your gifts. I don't even want to call it woo-woo or new agey, because that is part of the old template and paradigm of how we've associated, and it's not being taken seriously, but it's like, you've got to own your gifts. You've got to own it now, because you have a sacred mission. You have a sacred medicine that needs to be shared with the planet. And so it's not enough for us to sit back and say that there needs to be change in the world. We need to help save the bees. We actually have to be the people that are willing to go out on the front lines now and actually be able to start creating the change that we're talking about. That's why I since I started my business almost 9 years ago, that quote from Gandhi has stayed with me forever. Like, be the change you wish to see in the world. And being the change, and then going out and starting to create the change, to create the transformation, helping others. And we cannot hide anymore. We cannot hide who we really are, you know, which is, this platform for me is also a different like opportunity for me to become even more my full expression, because I've hidden parts of myself too that are not always able to be shown because of certain things that came up in the past, which I'm revealing more and more, you know? So I love that you've shared that, because it's so important. We cannot sit back anymore and cover up all of these parts of ourselves that are vital to the transformation, the transition that our planet, that consciousness, humanity is going through. Like, we've got to step into that, which I know is a big part of my mission, is working with the leaders, spiritual, feminine leaders and influencers, to go through those upgrades and the activations that are needed to carry them out even further in their missions, because people are praying and begging and meditating and asking for the help. And they may not know where you are if you're hiding. They may not know that you exist if you aren't saying or sharing that with the world. So that's why it's so important to excavate. And, I almost see it like you were talking about the cave. I love that because, when we were in Sedona, there were so many, I just have a couple with me right here. Crystals sitting with me. These are two of my newbies. My clear quartz and the citrine Lemurian quartz. And I got a green tourmaline. It's upstairs charging. But, I come back to thinking about these beautiful gemstones, and the reason why we have them here, they're not hidden inside a cave somewhere or underground, is because people went out and excavated for these. People went out and did the hard work to find these pieces, which ended up in my home sharing its medicine with me. Right? So it's like we are almost like these vast beings or mountains or parts of the earth, and the inner work, the being with all that is, discovering more about ourselves is like going in like we're miners, mining through the dirt, mining through the earth, mining through the rock, and everything else that is covering up the gemstones that are us, that are really truly us, like the medicine and the things that we're here to share with the world. So, this is, God, I love you so much. Like, I swear, Tracy, like we are so in tune with this and we are on the same page. Like, I just feel like there's so much complementary, like understanding and ways of explaining this. And we're on the same page here. And it's just, I can't thank you enough for stepping up and doing this work. I can't do it on my own. You can't do it on your own. And it's okay that we have to step in and be sometimes the people who go first through some of these experiences, because we teach what we've learned.
Yes.
Right? We teach what we've learned. So I just, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you and anybody else who's watching right now, whether you're live with us or on the replay, like, thank you for the work that you're doing in the world and for stepping into sharing your medicine, because the world needs you. We can't hide anymore. We can't, hold back our fullest expression and the things that we want to share and say. We can't distract and numb ourselves anymore. It's time. It's time for you to know who you are and to share more of that with other human beings, with the sentient beings on this planet, with the universe and the galaxies, because that is a part of all of this. This is the journey that we're on. So, I will start to wrap up in just a moment, but like, I know we could keep going on for a long time talking about this. It's so enriching and it's so robust. And like, I'm so grateful for you, Tracy, for saying yes to your mission and saying yes to the beautiful work that you do, which we didn't get to go too much in depth about, but I'm going to have you share where, this is the beingness of it. And for people to want to know how you do this work, I'm going to reveal it in a minute, but I just want to ask you if there's any final things that you wanted to share about this in this conversation before we ask some questions from our audience and update people on how they can stay in touch with you.
I think just one thing struck me as you were talking, it's like, that's why so many of us didn't feel like we belonged. Mm-hmm. Because we were learning how to not reference the outer world for our inner guidance. So all of that time of like, oh man, can't I just do what everybody else is doing and feel comfortable? What's wrong with me? But guess what? That was really awesome, because now we can't reference the outer world. We're going in a whole new place. We need to go to like a whole new direction. And so we were trained our whole lives. This has been the training, folks. Like, this is what we've been up to, is like being trained to not be able to like just follow the herd and tune in and follow our own guidance to where we need to go, because that's the new place. That's the place for the thriving of our planet, and for us as people. Like, we're not all this old stuff is dying away.
Yeah.
It's dying away. Like the kind of these structures and this, inequity and, this like suffering and all this stuff that's been going on that is just unnecessary. And all of us have known it. We've been living our lives feeling so uncomfortable around it. Like, why is this here? This doesn't seem right. Well, yeah, because it isn't. Yeah. And, yes, we're being with what it is right now. And at the same time, tuning in this moment, is there something for me right now to do?
Yeah.
What is it's not about what's so-and-so doing or what's my neighbor doing that maybe I should do, because it's not going to be your thing. Your guidance is your own, and each of us is unique. So just putting that out there, like if you felt uncomfortable, like you didn't fit into the outer thing, it's because you weren't supposed to, because you're leading a new thing.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Like I just felt even more of this conversation just land even more for me. That was so beautiful. So beautiful. Such a beautiful way to put it and see it.
Just so deep. You and Jeffrey, you guys are just like gorgeous, gorgeous beings. And I'm so grateful to have you in my life. And yeah.
Feeling's mutual, sister.
Yes.
Yeah, the feeling is so mutual. And thank you for that reflection. I really appreciate it a lot and appreciate you. Mm. This was so juicy. I love these conversations.
I'm hanging out with you anyway, so it's fun to do it.
So awesome. Yes. And so awesome to share this with those of you who've been, sticking with us this entire time. We've had a steady, small, intimate group here. And then, some of you have commented here. So Brooke joined us and she pulled a card on what we were talking about a little earlier when we were discussing some of the things that were coming up in the flow. She said she pulled a card on that. And Sharon, hi Sharon. Oh yes, the retreat was wonderful. It's great to have you here. Thanks for joining us. And Marilena, welcome. Hi to you, beautiful. So this is an opportunity before we wrap things up. If you are watching and you have any questions for the both of us or for one of us in particular that you want to ask, this is the perfect time to do that. We can answer any questions that have come up for you in either what we've been talking about, conversing about in the last little while, or something completely different that you're maybe going through or experiencing, or it's been top of your mind that you feel is related to what Tracy and I do day to day in our missions and in our work, or just something that's come up on your spiritual or your personal journey that you need some support with quickly. So if there's anything that you want to add, this would be a great time to type it into the little box below. And as you're doing that, if there's anybody that wants to do that, also if there's any questions on the replay, if you're listening to this later, you're welcome to post a question. I'll be tracking this live and all the comments coming in over the next several days. But before we do, I'll just let people, if they want to, ask any questions, I'm going to write where people can connect with you. And you mentioned that you have a program coming up in July. Do you want to tell the audience a little bit about that?
Yes. It's called Intuitive Alchemy. Mm-hmm. And it's a 4-week program, twice a week. We meet twice a week. And it's about expanding and harnessing your own gifts and looking at where you might have been or be in the way of doing that. So it's like we're expanding, so learning about what are your specific intuitive gifts, what is your medicine? And then what's had you holding back? And what needs to happen for that to lift? Like what needs to happen for you to freely be you in the world? And it's a process. It's not like an overnight thing. I just want to create a space that is safe, that's supported. We're going to do a lot of live coaching, like hot seat coaching, and just really getting in. We're going to do, other people really, getting the feedback from the participants. What are you feeling when you're hearing this person talk? What's your, helping to actually cultivate those intuitive gifts, wow, like in the process, not just talking about it, but actually coaching people to harness those and become more aware of what they know. And, you know, because this is just, yeah, I mean, I feel like this is the thing. I mean, this is for me, my path. You know, what I feel like is important to wake up in the world or help people remember is how to tune into themselves and how to act from that. Like that's it. So that's what it's about.
It sounds amazing. So awesome. So is there a website that they can go to for that, or should we put
although I will say that my web designer is just working on it right now. So, I mean, the actual program is going to be posted in the next couple of days. So the site that they can go to, and if they want to go and just get on my mailing list, then they'll get an email about it. www.for, that's F-O-R, modernmystics.com. FORMODERN.
Or modernmystics.com. Awesome. I'm going to post that there.
Perfect.
Yeah. So you can go check out Tracy's work, join her mailing list so you can stay in touch with her. Amazing. It doesn't look like we have any questions. And, you know, as for me, I will be back in 2 weeks with another guest that will be on the show. And I'm actually in a really exciting place. I do have a couple of beautiful offerings that I'm birthing through all of the work that I've been, you know, experiencing both internally and externally. My next level of offerings have birthed, but I'm going to wait just a little bit because I'm not feeling like it's the aligned time right now to reveal it just yet. So my call to action for all of you guys is definitely check out Tracy's site. Check out her work and her program coming up, Intuitive Alchemy, and continue to come back and be a part of these conversations. This is so exciting. I'm hoping that you can share these conversations with your tribes, with your friends, with your family, because the whole point of this is to start cross-pollinating audiences so that our messages, these conversations, become the norm. You know, we are here to help spread this work, these messages, our medicine with more and more people so that you can have authentic, real conversations so that you feel like it's easier for you to share your medicine with the world. So I would love it if you would be so kind, if you feel called to sharing, you know, this conversation to your timeline or with other people or through email. If you feel called to doing it, it helps to get the message and this work out into the world in a bigger way, because we're all in this together. This is not my work. This is not just Tracy's work. This is all of our work as a collective, and supporting one another and co-creating and collaborating is the way forward. It really, truly is. So Tracy, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your wisdom, your medicine, your love. You're such a gift, and I'm so blessed to have you in my life as well. And I'm so glad that we got to connect and dive deeply today. You really are a beautiful soul, and keep doing the beautiful work that you're doing in the world, because I know that you're helping many, many, many lives.
Oh, beloved, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I love what you're doing, and I just celebrate you, and yeah, really grateful to have had this conversation.
Thank you, Tracy. And thank you to all of you for watching. Thank you, Marilena and Brooke. You're so welcome. So great to have all of you here. We'll be back in 2 weeks with episode number 4. So stay tuned. I'll be revealing more as we get closer to that date. Have a wonderful day, evening, rest of your week, my loves. Keep doing beautiful work in the world, and we'll see you very soon. Take care. Much love. Bye.